Human Recreational Danger. The Galactic Council's Worst, Unimaginable Nightmare. Part 1. The Discovery. Counselor Vreth had served on the Galactic Council for 47 standard cycles. She had witnessed wars between star systems. She had negotiated peace treaties with species that ate their enemies. She had survived an assassination attempt by a shape-shifting diplomat from the Outer Rim. Nothing had prepared her for Adventure Weekend. The Galactic Council headquarters floated in the endless dark of neutral space. Nexus Prime Station housed representatives from 47 different species, all working together to maintain peace across the known galaxy. Humanity had joined the Council only 3 cycles ago, and they were still considered the new members. Young, inexperienced, harmless. That last word would soon become a joke. Vreth clicked her mandibles together as she walked through the station corridors. Her insectoid body was covered in hard brown plates, and her 4 eyes scanned everything around her with careful attention. The Cultural Exchange Committee had assigned her to observe human leisure activities. It was supposed to be a simple task. Every species had hobbies. The Florians tended gardens. The Silurians meditated for days. The Meridians composed music that could only be heard underwater. Humans, she assumed, would do something equally peaceful. Jake Morrison met her at the entrance to the human recreation deck. He was young for a human, with messy brown hair and a smile that seemed permanently attached to his face. He worked as an assistant to the human ambassador, and he had volunteered to guide the alien delegation through their recreational facilities. "Counselor Vreth," he said cheerfully. "Welcome to Adventure Weekend. You picked a great time to visit." Vreth noticed his clothing. He wore short pants that ended above his knees, and a shirt with no sleeves. His feet were covered in thick shoes, with strange gripping surfaces on the bottom. "What is Adventure Weekend?" she asked. "Oh, it is the best," Jake said. "We have rock climbing, swimming competitions, dodgeball tournaments, and later tonight there is a capture the flag game in the dark. Everyone is really excited." Vreth did not know what any of those words meant, but she followed Jake through the large doors anyway. Ambassador Zira Knoll floated beside her, in a water-filled hoverpod. The Meridian diplomat was a graceful creature with blue scales and flowing fins. She had also been assigned to observe human recreation. "This should be interesting," Zira said. Her voice came through a translator device on her pod. "I have heard humans are quite creative." They entered the recreation deck and stopped walking. The space was enormous. The ceiling rose 30 meters above them, and the room stretched in every direction. But it was not the size that made Vreth freeze in place. It was what the humans were doing inside. On the far wall, humans were climbing. They moved up a vertical surface covered in small, colorful holds, pulling themselves higher and higher with only their hands and feet. There were no harnesses, no safety nets, just humans clinging to a wall, laughing and calling out to each other as they climbed toward the ceiling. "They will fall," Vreth said. Her voice came out as a whisper. "Some of them do," Jake said casually. "That is part of the fun. There are soft mats at the bottom." Vreth stared at him. "Part of the fun?" Falling from great heights was part of the fun. In another section of the room, humans were throwing themselves into a deep pool of water. They climbed to a platform high above the surface, ran toward the edge, and jumped. They twisted their bodies in the air, spinning and flipping, before crashing into the water below. When they came back up to the surface, they were smiling. "They are drowning themselves," Zira said. Her fins pressed flat against her body in alarm. Repeatedly. "No, no," Jake laughed. "That is diving. They do it on purpose. Some humans can hold their breath for several minutes." "Why?" Vreth demanded. Jake shrugged. "Because it feels good. The rush of hitting the water, you know? It is exciting." Vreth did not know. She did not understand at all. A loud noise made her jump. Across the room, humans were throwing balls at each other. Hard balls, fast balls. The balls hit human bodies with painful-sounding impacts, and the humans who got hit sat down on the side. But they were not crying or seeking medical attention. They were laughing, cheering, shouting encouragement at their teammates. "They are attacking each other," Vreth said. "That is dodgeball," Jake explained. The goal is to hit the other team with the balls while avoiding getting hit yourself. Last team standing wins. This is a combat exercise. No, it is just a game. We play it at parties. Vreth felt her legs go weak. She had seen enough. She had seen too much. These humans were not peaceful. They were not harmless. They were practicing for something terrible. She turned to Jake. I must speak with the council immediately. She turned to Jake. Jake looked confused. Is something wrong? We have not even shown you the obstacle course yet. The what? The obstacle course. It has walls to climb, pits to jump, ropes to swing from. Some of the obstacles are on fire. Vreth stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned and walked as fast as her 6 legs could carry her toward the exit. Zira followed in her hover pod. Counselor. Wait. Perhaps we should observe more before making any reports. I have observed enough, Vreth said. The humans climb toward death. They throw themselves into water. They assault each other with projectiles. And somewhere in that facility, there are obstacles that are burning. She reached the communication station near the exit and began pressing buttons. Her hands were shaking, which was unusual for a Torvian. Her species was known for staying calm in all situations, but this was not a normal situation. What are you doing? Zira asked, sending an emergency transmission to the High Council. About human recreation? Vreth turned all 4 of her eyes toward the Meridian diplomat. Ambassador Zira. The humans engage in simulated death scenarios for entertainment. They practice falling, drowning, and combat as leisure activities. They do this while laughing. She finished typing her message and sent it through priority channels. The council must know, Vreth continued. We must assess the threat level immediately. If humans train for danger during their relaxation time, imagine what they do when they are serious. Back in the recreation deck, Jake Morrison watched the alien delegation leave. He scratched his head in confusion. That was weird, he said to Ben Carter, who was setting up the evening activities. What happened? Ben asked. I do not know. I was just showing them around, and they seemed really upset. Ben shrugged. Aliens are strange sometimes. Did you tell them about the marathon next week? 200. 200. No, I did not get a chance. Probably for the best. The climbing seemed to freak them out enough. Jake nodded slowly. He wondered what the big deal was. Humans had been climbing things since the beginning of their species. It was just what they did for fun. He had no idea that his simple tour had just triggered the largest threat assessment in Galactic Council history. Human recreational danger. The Galactic Council's worst unimaginable nightmare. Part 2. The investigation. The emergency chamber of the Galactic Council had not been used in 11 cycles. The last time these doors opened was during the border war between the Vexari Empire and the Florian Collective. That conflict had threatened to destroy 3 star systems. Today, the chamber opened because of dodgeball. High Counselor Drim sat at the center of the long curved table. He was a Silurian, an ancient species made of living crystal. His body glowed with soft purple light, and his voice sounded like wind chimes when he spoke. He had governed the council for over 200 cycles. He had seen every kind of crisis the galaxy could offer, or so he thought. Counselor Vreth, he said, please present your findings. Vreth stood before the assembled representatives. 12 senior council members watched her with expressions ranging from curiosity to boredom. They did not understand why she had called an emergency session. They would understand soon. She pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. The footage showed the human recreation deck from the previous day. What you are about to see may disturb you, Vreth warned. The footage played. Humans climbed the vertical wall, their bodies hanging by their fingertips. They laughed when they lost their grip. They fell onto the mats below, and immediately started climbing again. Lieutenant Koss leaned forward in his seat. He was a Vexari, a tall reptilian species with green scales and sharp teeth. His people were warriors. They understood combat training better than anyone in the galaxy. They are practicing assault techniques, Koss said. Climbing structures without equipment. This is infiltration training. It gets worse, Vreth said. The footage switched to the diving pool. Humans threw themselves from high platforms, twisting through the air before crashing into the water. Several council members looked away. They are conditioning themselves for emergency water landings, Koss continued. This is survival training. There is more, Vreth said. The dodgeball game appeared on the display. Balls flew through the air at high speed. Humans got hit, stumbled, fell down, and laughed. Projectile combat simulation, Koss growled. They are preparing for war. High Counselor Drim raised one crystalline hand. Before we reach conclusions, perhaps we should hear from the humans themselves. Bring in the human witness. End quote. The chamber doors opened, and Jake Morrison walked in. He looked nervous, but also confused. He had been told that the council wanted to ask him some questions about human culture. He did not understand why armed guards had escorted him to the emergency chamber. Mr. Morrison, Drim said gently, please help us understand what we observed in your recreational facility. Jake looked at the frozen image of the dodgeball game on the display. That is just dodgeball. It is a game. A game where you assault each other with projectiles. Well, yes. But they are softballs. Usually. And the climbing? That is rock climbing. People do it for exercise. And for fun. Lieutenant Koss slammed his clawed hand on the table. Fun. You climb deadly heights and call it fun. Jake shifted uncomfortably. I mean, the heights are not that deadly. And there are mats. Vreth stepped closer to the human. Mr. Morrison, why do humans enjoy these activities? Why do you voluntarily put yourselves in danger? Jake thought about the question for a moment. I guess it is the adrenaline rush. When you do something scary, your body releases these chemicals that make you feel alive. It feels good. The translator devices around the room struggled with the word adrenaline. Several council members requested clarification. Adrenaline is a hormone, Jake explained. It triggers when humans are scared or excited. Our hearts beat faster. We become more alert. Some people really enjoy that feeling. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. You enjoy fear, Drim said slowly. You deliberately make yourselves afraid. Because it feels pleasant. When you say it like that, it sounds weird, Jake admitted. But yes, that is basically correct. The council members exchanged looks of pure horror. I would like to call another human witness, Vreth said. Someone who can demonstrate typical human recreation in a controlled setting. Amy Chen entered the chamber a few minutes later. She was a fitness instructor on Nexus Prime, responsible for teaching exercise classes to the human population. She had dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and wore athletic clothing. The council would like to see a safe human recreational activity, Drim explained. Something gentle. Amy nodded. I could demonstrate jogging. That is very basic. Please proceed. Amy began to jog in place. Her legs moved in a steady rhythm. Her arms pumped at her sides. After 30 seconds, her breathing became heavier. Sweat appeared on her forehead. Her face turned slightly red. The council watched in stunned silence. What is she doing? One representative whispered. She is running, Vreth answered. Humans do this for extended periods. Sometimes for hours. But nothing is chasing her. Correct. She runs voluntarily. Amy continued jogging. Her heart rate was now visible on a medical scanner that the council had activated. It showed her pulse climbing rapidly. Her body temperature was rising, her stress hormones were flooding her bloodstream, and she was smiling. This is considered gentle? Lieutenant Koss demanded. This is very gentle, Jake confirmed. Some humans run over 40 kilometers at a time. It is called a marathon. High Counselor Drim's crystalline body flickered with agitation. 40 kilometers. Running. Without predators chasing them. Yes, sir. Sometimes they do it for charity. The council called for a recess. Several representatives needed time to process what they had witnessed. One Florian delegate had to be escorted to the medical bay after experiencing what doctors described as sympathetic exhaustion. When the session resumed, Drim addressed the full chamber. Based on what we have seen today, I am ordering a full investigation into human recreational practices. We need to understand the full scope of what humanity considers leisure activity. I recommend accessing their planetary archives, Vreeth suggested. Earth maintains detailed records of human hobbies and sports. Approved. Lieutenant Koss, you will lead the research team. Koss nodded. He was eager to catalog all the ways humans trained for combat. He expected to find a dozen or so activities similar to what they had observed. The research team began their work that evening. They accessed human databases and started searching for recreational activities. The results came back within hours. Koss stared at the data on his screen. His scales had turned pale. How many? Drim asked when he received the preliminary report. Over 8,000, Koss replied. His voice was weak. They have over 8,000 documented activities classified as extreme sports. Define extreme. Activities with a high probability of injury or death. Jumping from aircraft. Diving into underwater caves. Skiing down mountains at dangerous speeds. Running with wild animals. Drim's glow dimmed. Running with wild animals. They call it the running of the bulls. They deliberately provoke large, horned creatures to chase them through streets. For entertainment, the chamber fell silent. Every representative was imagining their own species voluntarily being chased by predators. It was unthinkable. The investigation has only begun, Vreeth said quietly. And already I am more terrified than I have ever been in my life. Drim nodded slowly. Continue the research. We need to understand everything. None of them were prepared for what they would find next. Human recreational danger. The Galactic Council's worst, unimaginable nightmare. Part 3. The Catalog of Horrors. Dr. Plix had made a terrible mistake. He had volunteered for the Human Recreation Research Project because he thought it would be easy. As a Florian, a gentle plant-based species, he specialized in cultural studies. He had documented the meditation practices of the Silurians. He had recorded the underwater symphonies of the Meridians. He had spent 3 cycles observing how the Villani communicated through emotional projection. Now he was watching footage of humans jumping out of aircraft. And he wished he had never been born. What is this called? He asked weakly. His leaves were wilting from stress. Chris Taylor, the human cultural liaison assigned to help the research team, looked at the screen. That is skydiving. People jump from planes at high altitudes and fall toward the ground. They open a parachute before they hit the surface. And if the parachute does not open, then they die. Dr. Plix made a small whimpering sound. But they do it anyway. Millions of humans do it every year. Some people do it almost every day. The research chamber was filled with alien scientists and diplomats, all trying to understand human recreation. Screens covered every wall, displaying footage and data from Earth's extensive archives. The more they watched, the less they understood. Representative Mori sat in the corner, her large dark eyes closed. She was a Villani, a species that could sense emotions from other beings. She had been asked to verify that the humans in the footage were actually enjoying themselves. Every time she opened her senses to the recordings, she felt waves of joy and excitement coming from humans who were moments away from possible death. It made her physically ill. I need to show you the next category, Chris said. He seemed apologetic. This is called bungee jumping. The footage showed a human standing on a bridge high above a river. The human was connected to a long, elastic cord. As the research team watched, the human jumped off the bridge and fell toward the water below. The cord stretched and stretched, slowing the fall just before the human touched the surface. Then the cord snapped back, and the human bounced up and down like a toy. The human was screaming with joy. They tie a rope to their legs and jump toward the ground, Dr. Plix said flatly. For fun. The cord stops them from hitting the bottom. What if it breaks? Chris was quiet for a moment. Then they die. And this has happened? Yes. It is rare. But it has happened. People still do it. Dr. Plix turned off the screen. His leaves had turned brown at the edges. I need a moment. Please show me something less violent, Chris thought carefully. I could show you water sports. Those are usually considered relaxing. Chris, The next footage showed humans riding small boards on ocean waves. The waves were enormous, towering walls of water that could crush a human body in an instant. The humans rode these waves at incredible speeds, balancing on their boards as millions of tons of water crashed around them. "This is relaxing?" Dr. Plix asked. "Well, surfing is considered more exciting, but some humans find it peaceful." Representative Mori opened her eyes. "The emotional feedback from these recordings is overwhelming. These humans are not just happy. They are experiencing a level of joy that my species only feels during life-bonding ceremonies, and they feel it while falling from the sky." Chris nodded. "Humans have something called an adrenaline addiction. Some people need danger to feel complete. Without it, they feel empty." The door to the research chamber opened, and a tall human male walked in. He had sun-darkened skin and a confident walk. His name was Sam Wright, and he was visiting Nexus Prime on vacation. "Hey Chris," Sam said. "Someone told me you were explaining human sports to aliens. Mind if I watch?" "Not at all. Sam is actually a good person to have here. He does extreme sports professionally." Quote, Dr. Plix turned his eye stalks toward the newcomer. "What extreme sports do you perform?" Sam sat down and stretched his legs. "Lately I have been doing a lot of free solo climbing. That means climbing mountains without any ropes or safety equipment. Last month I did a route on Mars that took 3 days. The research team stared at him. 3 days of climbing without protection." Dr. Plix repeated. "On another planet. Yeah, the lower gravity makes it interesting. Different technique, you know? And what will you do next?" Sam grinned. "I have a trip planned to Io. There is a volcano there that has some amazing slopes. I want to try volcano boarding." "What is volcano boarding?" "You ride a board down the side of an active volcano. The heat is intense, and you have to wear protective gear. But the speed is incredible. Some runs get up to 80 kilometers per hour." No one in the research chamber spoke. Dr. Plix had stopped taking notes. His entire body was trembling. Chris cleared his throat. "Sam, maybe we should show them something gentler. What about camping?" "Oh, camping is great. Very relaxing." Dr. Plix felt hope for the first time in days. "Camping? That sounds peaceful." "What is it?" "Humans go into wilderness areas and sleep outside," Chris explained. "Usually in small fabric shelters called tents. They cook food over open fires and spend time in nature." "That does sound pleasant." "Of course," Sam added. "Depending on where you camp, you might have to deal with bears, mountain lions, venomous snakes, severe weather, hypothermia, dehydration, getting lost, or forest fires. But that is part of the adventure." Dr. Plix's hope died instantly. "Humans sleep outside," he said slowly, "in areas filled with predators and environmental hazards." "Yes, and they call this relaxing. Very relaxing. Families do it together. Parents take their children camping as a bonding activity. Human children sleep in predator-filled wilderness. All the time. I went camping for the first time when I was 6 years old. A bear came into our campsite and stole our food. My dad just shooed it away with a stick." Doctor." Plix stood up from his seat. His leaves were completely brown now. "I cannot continue this research. I have seen enough. We have only covered 20% of the catalog," Chris said. "I do not care. I have learned everything I need to know about humanity." He walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "Your species is insane," he said. "You jump from the sky. You dive into the deepest water. You climb mountains that want to kill you. You sleep in forests full of creatures that could eat you, and through all of it, you smile. You laugh. You feel joy. And, inning," Chris nodded. "That is a pretty accurate summary. How are you not extinct?" Sam laughed. "We are just too stubborn to die." Dr. Plix left the chamber. He went directly to the medical bay and requested sedatives. The doctors found him sitting in a corner, mumbling about cheese rolling. He had apparently discovered that humans chased wheels of cheese down steep hills, tumbling and breaking bones in pursuit of dairy products. He never fully recovered. The research continued without him. Day by day, the catalog of human recreational activities grew longer. Swimming with sharks, climbing frozen waterfalls, racing vehicles at speeds that could kill instantly, fighting each other with padded sticks for entertainment. By the end of the week, the research team had documented over 12,000 activities that most species would consider suicidal. And somewhere in the human recreation archives, they found references to something that made everything else seem tame. Humans called it the polar bear plunge. They cut holes in frozen lakes and jumped into water cold enough to stop a heart. Then, they climbed out and did it again. For charity, the Galactic Council began to understand that they had seriously underestimated humanity. These were not a soft, young species finding their place in the galaxy. These were survivors of a death world, and danger was their natural state. Human recreational danger. The Galactic Council's worst unimaginable nightmare. Part 4. The Camping Incident. The nature preserve planet was called Verdana 3. The Galactic Council used it for diplomatic retreats because the environment was considered extremely safe. There were no predators larger than a small dog. The weather was mild year-round. The plants were not poisonous. Jake Morrison chose it for the mixed-species camping trip because he wanted the aliens to have a gentle introduction to outdoor recreation. He should have chosen a conference room instead. The transport ship landed in a clearing surrounded by tall purple trees. Jake stepped out first, breathing deeply. The air smelled clean and fresh. Birds with 4 wings sang in the branches above. "This is perfect," he said to himself. Counselor Vreeth emerged next, her 6 legs clicking nervously on the metal ramp. She had been ordered by the council to observe human camping firsthand. Her assistant, a young Torvian named Torin, followed close behind. 3 other alien diplomats joined them. Ambassador Zira Null floated in her water pod. A Florian named Dr. Grun had been sent to document the experience. Lieutenant Koss came because he still believed this was military training. Kate Miller was already at the campsite when they arrived. She was a human park ranger, responsible for managing outdoor activities on Verdana 3. Her brown hair was tied back, and she wore a uniform covered in many pockets. "Welcome to the wilderness," Kate said cheerfully. "Who is ready for adventure?" Kreising. Vreth looked around the clearing. She saw small fabric structures set up in a circle. They had thin walls that moved in the breeze. They had no doors, no locks, no security systems. "Those are the shelters?" she asked. "Those are tents," Jake confirmed. "You just unzip the front to get in and out." "Unzip?" "Yes. The door is made of fabric with a zipper." Vreeth examined the nearest tent. She pushed against the wall with one leg. The entire structure wobbled. A moderate wind could blow it over. A determined animal could tear through it in seconds. "This offers no protection," she said. "Protection from what?" Jake asked. Vreth did not have an answer. She was on one of the safest planets in the galaxy, surrounded by harmless creatures and pleasant weather. But every instinct in her body screamed that sleeping in a fabric box was insane. Kate gathered everyone together for a safety briefing. This was standard procedure for any camping trip. She had given this talk hundreds of times to human visitors. She had never seen the reaction she got from the aliens. "Okay, everyone," Kate began. "Before we start, let me cover some basic safety information. First, there are some insects on this planet that can deliver painful stings. They are not dangerous, but you will want to avoid disturbing their nests." The aliens exchanged worried glances. "Second, there are small mammals that might try to get into your food supplies. Just store everything in the sealed containers, and they will leave you alone." Lieutenant Koss rested his hand on his sidearm. "Third, the weather is usually calm, but we might get some rain tonight. If you hear thunder, stay in your tents until it passes." "Thunder?" Torin asked. It was the first time she had spoken. "It is a loud noise that happens during storms. Sometimes there is lightning too. Bright flashes of electricity in the sky. It is perfectly safe, as long as you stay low and avoid standing under tall trees." Torin's eyes went wide. "Electricity falls from the sky?" "Sometimes, but it rarely hits anything important." Jake noticed that the alien delegation looked ready to flee. He stepped forward quickly. "The point is," he said, "this is a very safe planet. Kate just has to mention all possible risks, because it is her job. Nothing bad is going to happen. Probably," Kate added helpfully. The camping trip began. Jake showed the aliens how to set up their sleeping areas inside the tents. He demonstrated how to roll out sleeping bags and inflate pillows. He explained that humans would normally sleep on the ground, separated from rocks and insects by only a thin layer of fabric. Dr. Grun, the Florian, took extensive notes. His species slept in temperature-controlled pods filled with nutrient solution. The idea of lying on dirt was fascinating in a horrifying way. As evening approached, Jake started building a fire. He gathered dry wood from the forest floor and arranged it in a pile. Then he used a small device to create a spark. The wood caught fire, and soon a warm glow filled the campsite. "You create open flames deliberately," Vreth observed. "For cooking and warmth," Jake said. "Also, fire keeps predators away." "I thought you said there were no predators here." "There are not. But humans like having fires anyway. It is part of the experience." The humans cooked food over the fire. They made something called hot dogs by holding sticks over the flames. They toasted bread and melted sweet substances between crackers. They passed food around and laughed at stories. Torin watched all of this with growing curiosity. She was younger than Vreth, and her fear was mixed with something else. Interest. Fascination. The humans seemed so happy sitting around the fire, eating burned food and telling jokes. "What is happening?" she asked Jake quietly. "We are having fun," Jake said. "This is what camping is really about. Sitting with friends, enjoying nature, sharing stories. It seems pleasant," Jake smiled. "It really is. Would you like to try a marshmallow?" Night fell over the campsite. The fire crackled softly. Stars appeared overhead, more than anyone could count. The air grew cool, and the humans added more wood to the flames. Then the storm arrived. It came from the west, a wall of dark clouds that blocked out the stars. Thunder rumbled in the distance, growing louder as it approached. Lightning flickered along the horizon. The alien diplomats prepared to evacuate. "We should return to the transport," Vreth said, immediately. "Why?" Jake asked. "There is a storm approaching. You said yourself that lightning falls from the sky. It is just a little rain. We will be fine in the tents." The first drops began to fall. Within minutes, rain was pouring down on the campsite. Thunder boomed overhead, and lightning lit up the night. The tents shook in the wind. Inside their fabric shelters, the aliens huddled in fear. The noise was incredible. The ground vibrated with each thunderclap. Water began seeping under the edges of the tents, and the humans were laughing. Jake poked his head into Vreth's tent. Rain dripped from his hair. He was soaking wet and grinning like a fool. "Great storm, right?" he shouted over the thunder. "This is awesome." Vreth stared at him. "You are enjoying this." "Of course. Storms during camping trips are the best. Listen to that thunder. It sounds amazing." He disappeared back into the rain. Through the gap in her tent, Vreth watched him run back to the fire pit, where several humans were trying to keep the flames alive despite the downpour. They were singing. Torin crawled closer to Vreth. "They truly do enjoy danger," she said quietly. "They are not pretending. They actually feel joy in the middle of this chaos." "I know," Vreth replied. "I think I understand now. Their planet made them this way. They evolved to find comfort in overcoming fear. It is how they survived." The storm passed after an hour. The clouds broke apart, and the stars returned. The humans rebuilt the fire and kept celebrating late into the night. They told something called ghost stories, which were apparently tales designed to frighten each other on purpose. Vreth did not sleep. She sat in her tent and listened to the humans laugh at stories about monsters and death. In the morning, Jake was making breakfast when he noticed a snake near the edge of the campsite. It was one of the mildly venomous species Kate had mentioned. Without hesitation, Jake walked over picked up the snake behind its head, and carried it into the forest. He returned a minute later, wiping his hands on his pants. "All clear," he said casually. "Anyone want eggs?" Vreth watched him return to cooking as if nothing had happened. He had just handled a venomous creature with his bare hands and treated it like a minor inconvenience. She was beginning to understand why the council was afraid. As the camping trip ended and everyone prepared to leave, Vreth heard the humans planning their next activity. Something called a marathon. 26 miles of continuous running. She decided not to include that detail in her report. The council had suffered enough. Human recreational danger. The Galactic Council's worst unimaginable nightmare. Part 5. The New Understanding. 6 months had passed since the investigation began. The Galactic Council had reviewed over 20,000 reports. They had watched hundreds of hours of footage. They had interviewed dozens of humans about their leisure activities. Now it was time to make a decision. High Counselor Drim stood at the center of the main chamber. His crystalline body glowed with the weight of the moment. Every seat was filled. Representatives from all 47 member species had come to hear the verdict. The question was simple. Was humanity a threat to the galaxy? "The investigation is complete," Drim announced. His voice echoed through the silent chamber. "Our researchers have cataloged over 12,000 human recreational activities. These range from mildly concerning to existentially terrifying." He activated the main display. A list appeared, scrolling slowly upward. Skydiving, cave diving, bull running, cliff jumping, ice climbing, motorcycle racing, fire dancing, storm chasing. The list went on and on. Based on this evidence, Drim continued, some members of this council have proposed classifying humanity as a risk species. They argue that any civilization that finds joy in danger cannot be trusted with galactic responsibilities. Lieutenant Koss nodded firmly. He had been advocating for human containment since the beginning. "They train for combat constantly," he said. "Every recreational activity is preparation for war." "I disagree." All eyes turned to Counselor Vreth. She stood up slowly, her 6 legs steady despite her nervousness. 6 months ago, she had been the first to sound the alarm about human recreation. Now, she was going to defend them. "I have spent more time observing humans than anyone else in this chamber," Vreth said. "I have watched them climb. I have watched them run. I have slept in a fabric shelter while electricity fell from the sky around me." She walked to the center of the floor. "And I have learned something important. Humans do not train for war. They train for survival. Their homeworld is one of the most hostile environments in the known galaxy. Predators, extreme weather, toxic plants, unstable geology, diseases that kill millions, natural disasters that reshape continents." The display changed to show images of Earth. Volcanoes erupting, hurricanes spinning, earthquakes leveling cities, sharks swimming through dark water. "Humans evolved on a death world," Vreth continued. "Every day of their existence has been a fight for survival. Their recreational activities are not preparation for attacking others. They are preparation for surviving anything." Representative Mori, the Villani empath, stood up next. "I can confirm Counselor Vreth's assessment. I have sensed human emotions during their dangerous activities. They do not feel aggression. They do not feel bloodlust. They feel joy, connection, and pride in overcoming challenges. Their danger-seeking is not a sign of violence. It is a sign of resilience." The chamber fell into heated debate. Some representatives agreed with Vreth. Others remained suspicious. Lieutenant Koss continued to insist that humans were training an army of fearless soldiers. Finally, Representative Mori proposed a compromise. "I suggest a new classification," she said. "Humanity should not be labeled as dangerous because of aggression. They should be labeled as dangerous because of resilience. They are the first species we have encountered that does not break under pressure. They laugh at it. They climb it. They swim through it. They camp in it." She paused to let her words sink in. "Humans are not a threat because they want to harm us. They are remarkable because nothing we could do to them would make them stop trying. That is not a reason to fear them. It is a reason to admire them. High Counselor Drim considered the proposal for a long moment. Then he called for a vote. The result was decisive. Humanity would remain a full member of the Galactic Council. Their recreational activities would be tolerated, though not encouraged. New protocols would be established to protect other species from accidental exposure to human leisure. Warning signs were installed throughout Nexus Prime in 47 languages. They marked human recreational areas with symbols indicating danger levels. Any alien who wished to participate in human activities was required to sign extensive waivers acknowledging the risks. Jake Morrison received a promotion after the vote. He became the official cultural ambassador for human recreation, responsible for helping aliens understand and safely experience human leisure activities. Amy Chen started a new program called Human-Alien Fitness Integration. It began with very gentle exercises like walking and stretching. The hope was to eventually work up to jogging, though some aliens found even slow walking to be disturbingly intense. After the main vote concluded, Jake approached the council with a small request. He wanted to introduce the senior members to a safe human activity as a gesture of goodwill. It is called chess, Jake explained. It is a board game. 2 players move pieces according to specific rules. There is no physical activity at all. Just sitting and thinking. The council members relaxed visibly. Finally, something they could understand. Mental games were common across all civilizations. This would be a perfect bonding activity. 12 representatives agreed to learn chess. They gathered in a recreational room with Jake and a large game board. Jake taught them the rules, which were complex but logical. The aliens picked it up quickly. Then Jake mentioned something else. At the highest levels of competition, he said casually, chess players often play for 12 to 16 hours without breaks. Their heart rates stay elevated the entire time. Some matches last several days. Players have been known to lose 10 pounds during a single tournament. The representative stared at him. They burn around 6,000 calories during a match, Jake continued, purely from mental stress. Their bodies produce enough cortisol to cause physical symptoms. Some players have been hospitalized after particularly intense games. Ambassador Zira Null was the first to leave. Dr. Grun followed shortly after. Within minutes, only Lieutenant Koss remained, staring at the chessboard as if it had personally betrayed him. Even your thinking games are dangerous, he said quietly. Jake shrugged. Humans just give everything they have. Whatever we do it completely. It is who we are. Koss left without another word. 6 months later, young Torin completed her first human hiking trail. It was only 5 kilometers, barely a warm-up by human standards. But for a Torvian, it was the most difficult thing she had ever done. Her legs ached. Her shell was covered in dust. She had slipped twice and scraped her carapace on rocks. Her lungs burned from the exertion. She had never felt more alive. At the top of the trail, Jake was waiting with water and a smile. How do you feel? He asked. Torin looked out over the landscape below. She could see the entire valley from here. The view was beautiful beyond words. I understand now, she said. Why you do this. Why you seek challenges and overcome them. There is something inside you that grows stronger every time you face danger. And when you survive, you feel like you can do anything. Jake nodded. That is exactly it. I want to do more. What is the next level? Rock climbing. But we should start with the easy walls. Torin signed up for lessons the next day. Within a year, she had become the first non-human to complete a Category 3 climbing route. The council called her reckless. Her family called her insane. She called herself human at heart. And somewhere in the recreation facility, more aliens were starting to understand. One by one, they were learning that danger was not something to avoid. It was something to embrace. The humans had given the galaxy a gift. They had shown that fear could be transformed into joy, that challenges could become adventures, and that survival was not just about staying alive. It was about truly living. The Galactic Council would never be the same.